Well, hello everybody, and welcome to yet another edition, a normal edition, in fact, of the Inworld review, brought to you as part of the Metaverse Week in Review. And today is the 30th of June, at least it is in the States and here in the UK. I've got a feeling it might be tomorrow in Australia, but that's the way it goes on the global platforms. Here in the UK, I have to say it's rather hot and muggy, so if you hear a sort of drawling to my voice, you'll know what's going on. And it's also affecting Tara. And I gather, Saffia's got a nice cool study, but her woes are slightly different. But anyway, here we are. We're going to bring it all to you as per usual. I will start, as I always do, with a little roundup of news items in the general metaverse, as we call it. Those of you watching the Week in Review have actually just seen a few clips, including a trailer for a sort of half-hour movie called The SL Movie, I think, which I have watched. It's a sort of semi-RL, sort of Second Life thing, which we'll be publishing shortly. A couple of previews from an often neglected platform called Fast Park, basically some fire safety drills. We had an interview about the Oculus Rift, and we had, of course, the latest in Drastic Debray's series. The follow-up to the Roderick interview was all about Mad P. And interesting that was. The rather touching thing, it sort of brought back a few memories, is the opening clip by Aqua. It was a machinima of the song I Walk Alone. And those of you who remember this show back in the really early days of Operator 11 and places like that, we had several different clips of that song from somebody who we ran at the time.
Yes, I remember that.
Yeah, and it's just resurfaced as a soundtrack to a new one. So I thought it brought back a few memories playing that at the beginning. Right, I'm seeing the red light flashing in my studio as if it's not recording, but I think it must be recording because we did go live automatically. So I'm not going to worry about it. We'll have an offline copy in emergency anyway. So let me get back to the various bits and pieces since last week's show, in fact. The last two shows, of course, have been rather short because we were hopping back and forth to Second Life's 10th birthday party, which is now sadly all over. The Sims closed to the public last night, and the builders have bare hours to clean up their bits, so to speak, before everything gets returned to the inevitable lost and found folder where you can never find anything. It was great. The fairground, so to speak, had been open all week for people to peruse. I actually went in there a few times. I was so busy during the active week that I needed to go back to check up on a few things. And I was glad to see that there were quite a few people wandering around. It meant I had plenty of lag, of course, but you expect that. So certainly a few people popping in there during the week, looking around and enjoying it before it all disappears, as it is wont to do. On my general news links, there have actually been quite a few mentions of the Second Life birthday, both this week and last week, in sort of the major mainstream papers, most of them with a tech focus, but nevertheless, it's sort of been acknowledged, probably due to Belinda Now's press release, we're still here after 10 years. And, quite a few things. There's one blog, which I've actually got noted down in Instant Paper, so I can't actually give it a link, but it said, whatever happened to Second Life? And the reply is, doing rather nicely, thank you very much. So it's not all doom and gloom on that front. This week there's also a new issue of the Journal of Virtual Worlds Research, which is a website where you basically have to follow links to each article, and then you can actually download a PDF. All the articles in the new issue, I think there was about 6 articles in all. It wasn't the biggest issue, but it's basically devoted to the arts, and there was even one paper on virtual world broadcasting, though I would take issue with a lot of what was in it. It didn't seem at all accurate to me. Various, all the final SL10B talks, by the way, that didn't get up, that needed to be edited, have actually gone up this week, so you can see them now. Where we are. an attack on a Titan 3D action game. I forget what that was about, so I can't really tell you too much about that. Second Life turns 10. Another article says what it did wrong and why it may now have its own Second Life. So I love the way they play with headlines on these things. Something else that goes by week, and there have been plenty of them this week too, is there are no shortage of reports in the mainstream media about uses for virtual worlds, or I gather I'm meant to call them immersive environments from now on, which makes sense. There have been posts this week on using virtual therapy for social anxiety, learning English, health and safety in 3D environments. What else did we have? Right, I've got them all in order here. 3D in your browser. Yes, another attempt to put 3D in your browser. I don't have the links to these handy this week, so you'll have to rely on me for what. Oh, yeah, Proton Media have announced an iPad app, although I'm not entirely sure whether it's public, which is for a 3D collaboration environment. Proton Media... they're not involved in OpenSim, but they do make various sort of virtual platforms that run mostly for business. So the fact they're working on bringing it to the iPad, or in fact they've actually got it working on the iPad, I just haven't seen it advertised publicly yet. More information coming up about the Open Simulator Community Conference, which will be happening in September. Back on the Open Sim, the client scripts for the hypergates have been released to the open source community. Now, hypergridding is a very popular activity on OpenSim because it basically connects all the Open Simulator grids together and they become one big sort of mega grid, as it were, a bit like, it's the same size as Second Life, really, if not with the same population. But one method you can travel or hypergrid inside OpenSim is through something called a hypergate. Now, you don't have to do it this way. You can go to the map and simply switch grids. But the hypergates make it rather easy. You just walk into one of these hypergates and you walk out at the other end and you're on a different grid. And basically, the client script, in other words, the script for you to build and make hypergates have now been released open source, so you're free to make your own hypergates basically, rather than necessarily subscribing to the existing system. There is also a new viewer being released for OpenSim, which is called Control Alt Studio. And if I remember rightly, this promises some new features, but particularly it will work with 3D glasses. In other words, it's specially designed so if you wear 3D glasses, it turns OpenSim into a sort of surround environment with different layers, some of which are closer to you and others of which are sort of in the background, a bit like when you're watching those old TV movies with glasses on. I'm not a big fan of the idea of wearing glasses if I can help it, especially as I have to wear the other kind of glasses after time anyway. But promising for people who are into that kind of thing. Where else have we got? A couple of things. Usual upgrades from Justin CC's Open Simulator blog for the week. There's actually a series of articles you'll find on then. You'll have to Google them, I guess. Second Life at 10, A Decade of Expression. And we had both part 1 and part 2 during the week. That seems to be a series looking back at Second Life. And there was another feature, again, I suspect triggered by Second Life's birthday, on how our visions of virtuality have changed over the past 40 years, I hasten to add. 40 years ago, I guess, is when the original Oculus Rift was around. I remember arcades here in London where you went down to the basement, you put on these ungodly things on your head, and you went into a sort of highly pixelated but fun sort of virtual game environment. Grid Jumper has tweeted, the Noble virtual school is online. This apparently is a school online which offers you classes in, I think it might even be Second Life, but certainly Open Sim. But they offer you a range of classes, so it's really like looking up a normal school curriculum and then choosing the things on the curriculum that either fit your age group or fit your subject matter interest. And they're called the Noble Virtual School. Let me see. Will Burns, who's not with us today, on his Andromeda Media Group blog, has a very long article simply called Clothing Optional. It goes into an awful lot of things. The headline Clothing Optional is really not indicative of the article at all, but never mind. Kitely have updated their marketplace again. The main thing that seems to be possible now is that marketplace merchants can browse their own stores as opposed to the public browsing them, which seems to be a bit of an odyssey, but they're constantly delivering upgrades to that. Where are we? But here on this channel, I published a midweek metaverse, pre-recorded playlist, as it were, rather than live, earlier in the week, featuring various clips and stuff that you may want to go back and watch, including the interview with Philip Linden at Burn 2 the other week. Virtual reality can also curb your social anxiety. Virtual world can help relieve patients' pain, according to the Medical Express. Lots and lots of health aspects to this. And then finally, I noticed in the audience on our channel, Daniel Voyager posted a blog today, which I suspect is probably something similar on Linden Lab's own blog. Basically, Linden Lab, who run Second Life, have revamped their new user experience. And this includes 2 new landing islands, one called Social Island and one called Learning Island. Now, I haven't had time to explore these yet, but they are actually live. I think they may just have gone live today. I'm going to actually watch the channel chats, and Daniel may be able to prompt me on that. But anyway, if you look up Daniel Voyager's blog, you can find out more about that. So, I'm going to close down my main links, as it were, and come back here to the studio, where I'm going to hand the microphone and the camera, for that matter, to my colleague Tara for her take on the week and any updates she may have. So over to you, Tara.
Thank you, Mal. Greetings, everyone, from the it's not the North Wet today, it is the North Hot and Sticky. Fortunately, it's not as hot as it is east of the mountains and into places like Nevada and parts of California, where they're in 3-digit temperatures in Fahrenheit. But our humidity is higher than it usually is. We get a warm stretch. Anyhow, this for those in the U.S. is kind of the beginning of the 4th of July week. Well, it's actually the beginning of the 4th of July week, regardless of where you are, as long as you use the same calendar as we do. But the 4th of July, of course, being Independence Day, and is one of the major holidays of the U.S. holiday calendar, which happens to fall on Thursday this week, which this year, which means that people are carving out 4-day weekends, and some people are taking the entire week off. So I will wish everybody a happy 4th of July, and that applies whether you observe Independence Day in the U.S. or you're outside the U.S. and it's just the 4th of July. Let's see. I'm not sure that Mal, I think Mal sort of mentioned that the Firestorm viewer has come out with its new version, which now supports materials viewer, which is the enhancement in lights and what have you. And just a minute, where are my notes? Yes. That rolled out about Thursday, I think it was, Wednesday or Thursday. And as usual, they are strongly recommending that you do a clean install. And if you're goosey about doing a clean install, they've got a little video tutorial that will walk you through the process to make it easy. And also, if you're already using 4.4, the Firestorm viewer has a wonderful feature that allows you to save your settings. And so when you do the clean install, you can go in and save and reset all your settings without having to wade through all those windows, which is a wonderful feature. You don't realize what a pain it is until you have to do it on a new viewer. But as has been repeated by us here in various sources multiple times, now is the time to upgrade your viewer, whichever one you use, because server-side baking, now being called server-side appearance, is set to roll out at least to the test grids, to the test sims next week, not this coming week, but the week of July 8th. With the 4th of July holiday, the lab is not rolling out anything this coming week. Given the fact that with Thursday as a holiday, that has some impact on their scheduling. But and the other piece of this that I think is important in connection with Firestorm is those who are using the Phoenix viewer, who are still clinging to the Phoenix viewer. It is time to bite the bullet and change viewers. And of course, Firestorm is recommending that you switch to Firestorm, and points out in their blog posts that Firestorm they've done everything they can to try to make it as painless as possible. They've gone to great lengths to offer options, features, skins, and customization to allow you the closest resemblance to Phoenix as possible in the version 3 code base. So. And they have video tutorials, including a video about migrating from Phoenix to Firestorm. So hit their blog, bite the bullet, download, install, grumble, settle down, enjoy. That's the sequence when you have to switch software. As those who are longtime fans of Google Reader are dealing with, because Google Reader dies tomorrow. Let's see. Another item. I have a few more items on Second Life geeky stuff coming up here in a minute when I get to that in my list. But we'll get to that. There was a class action lawsuit. This is U.S. news again. That settled this week. It was a lawsuit against Linden Lab for suspended accounts. It was settled for the sum of $172,000 US, paid in lindens, to be paid in lindens. A legal opinion is it looks like Linden Lab lost, given the fact that there's been a settlement. This did not go to trial, and there's been some sentiment that it's kind of too bad it didn't, because that means there's no legal precedent that's been established from it. But these were the specific people in this particular suit are people whose accounts were locked, and they were locked out with holdings of goods and land and one thing and another. It was originally filed on behalf of 57,000 Second Life users in a particular category of landowners over a period of time, and I think the end of when they filed it was like in 2010 or something on this. But the main class was thrown out a couple of years ago. But what continues was a subset of people who had their accounts locked out. In other words, they'd done something that they should not have done, and Linden Lab said, "You're out of here." So that's it's one of these that it's always interesting to see how these come out, because it's always a long time between when they're filed and when they actually settle. The other thing that was kind of interesting to the attorney who gave an opinion to Hamlet about it was that the information about the amount of the settlement is usually something in things settled out of court that is not revealed, but it was in this particular case. The attorney also said it looked like the plaintiffs had a very hard time proving significant economic damages based on the total size of the settlement. and that attorney wondered what else came out of the settlement other than the monetary damages. And as Hamlet noted, what was kind of interesting was that it's being paid in Linden dollars, which suggests that the plaintiffs have accounts in active accounts through which they can be paid in Second Life. So that's an interesting conjecture there too. Yes, Daniel Voyager, a hat tip to you for spotting that Linden Lab has new regions for new users called Social Island and Learning Islands, and that apparently the former Destination Island and Welcome Islands are no longer on the grid. The other thing I thought was interesting was that apparently what Daniel pointed out was that they've changed the setup on the installation process to provide new user information there rather than when people actually hit the grid. So it sounds like it's worthwhile creating a new resident account just to walk through the process and see what they've done to it.
Another alt.
Another alt. Another year, another alt. Well. Let's see. Yeah, let me cover a few other notes here. An RFA is my go-to for updates on what's happening in the kind of in the back end of Linden Lab on the geeky end of stuff. Apparently there was, the materials viewer came out a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, and there has been another release that was updated on the 27th, which contains a number of updates and fixes. And I'm hopeful that actually will fix the issue with materials settings, or the advanced lighting settings, turning things black if you have lighting in combination with transparent textures. I'm happy to report the Firestorm treats that very nicely, but the original materials viewer from the lab in my viewer in my computer setup definitely did not. The lab currently estimates that it has approximately 30% of users who are currently running with advanced lighting model option. In other words, people who have updated their browsers to ones that can handle materials. So, which means there are also at least that many who have upgraded and are in good shape for server-side baking. So that's all pretty good, and it's giving them the opportunity it's giving them an opportunity to see how it's behaving in world, and to start tweaking some of the things that may not be apparent without a large scale user base using things as far as further improvements. Let me see. One of the things that has been in the works for a while now is an enhanced process for new viewer release, and this process will enable them to not have different projects that are backlogged in beta viewers waiting for their chance at getting into the main viewer. And it's going to speed up that process. There's going to be basically more different versions of the main viewer around based on what people have installed. And they currently are expecting that this is going to go into effect the week of July 8th, along with other things. It's actually ready to go, but as with the server side of things, they're doing a no change window for this coming week. One of the things that I thought was really interesting is apparently one of the first things that's going to go into the new viewer release process is an update to Vivox, which they are expecting will greatly improve voice quality within Second Life. And I don't think anybody's going to complain about that.
All right.
Oh, let's see. Okay, and one other thing. This actually is going back to earlier this week. And on the server side of things, there was a server maintenance package deployed to the release channels, and it fixed a number of things. But of particular note, as anybody who does machinima has noted, and people looking at maps and just looking around, the issue of diagonal sims not being visible And apparently, this latest server release, maintenance release, may actually fix that, although Maestro Linden isn't entirely convinced the underlying cause of the problem has been corrected, but that people are reporting that they're not seeing it when they were before. So fingers crossed on that one, because that's been a real pain. My last item, this is a hat tip of sorts to Hamlet. He noted the article in IO9 by Charlie Jane Anders on the history of virtual reality and pop culture for the last 40 years, which Mel mentioned. And Hamlet pointed out, looking through the various items in there, that every single one of the visions of virtual reality is pretty horrible in some way. It's either covering some dark aspect of human nature, or it's draining us of our humanity in some devious way. And none of them are saying basically that virtual reality is a great place worth living in as much as possible because it makes the human race better to be there. And so he poses the question of why so much negativity about virtual reality. And then he quotes a philosopher, Robert Nozick's experience machine thought experiment. Nozick asks us to imagine a machine that could give us whatever desirable or pleasurable experiences we could want. Psychologists have figured out a way to stimulate a person's brain to induce pleasurable experiences that the subject could not distinguish from those he or she would have apart from the machine. Nozick then asks, if given the choice, would we prefer the machine or real life? And that's a fascinating question to ponder, and it's I think one of the ways that those of us who are active in Second Life and other virtual environments might kind of ask ourselves is, what ways would we use Second Life in preference over things we can do in meat space? It's anyway, interesting question and a little something to ponder for this week or next week or whenever you're needing something to ponder. And on that note, I think I've run out of items for the moment, and I'll toss it back to Mel.
Well, thank you, Tara. Fascinating stuff there. It reminds me, I did actually post a link on Facebook today, sort of a bit offbeat. Scientists investigating the possibilities that we live in a simulation and stuff, and it gets very philosophical. Sorry, I won't really go into it, but it actually raised similar issues. About making if you found out this was this, would you make the decision to anchor in reality or in a simulation? Fascinating stuff. Also, I've been watching the back chat here, and there's been some mention of something I was going to mention at the top of the show and completely forgot, but I'll mention it now. A minor rant of the week for me. Well, it's a major rant, actually, except that you're not going to get much of a rant. Literally midnight tonight, wherever you are in the world, is the time when Google Reader, the Google Reader service, not any other Google service, will be shutting down for the final time. And for those of you who know me, know that I aggregate news and report on all sorts of things. And judging from the channel chat, Dan Voyager is also a resident of Google Reader, maybe more so than Second Life, certainly for me. And it really is a sort of matter of workflow. And the reason I mention it is I have actually spent quite a lot of time. Google Docs are not affected. I've just said this 3 times in chat. It's just Google Reader. My workflow has always been dependent on Google Reader. So most of this week, in the aftermath of SL10P, I've actually been working on my iPad and the computers to try and find a way of synchronizing all my news sources. Now, for those of you, maybe Dan and anybody else watching that has this problem, my personal choice seems to be a service called Feedly. Basically, you can import all your Google Reader subscriptions subscriptions into Feedly, and they actually keep those in their own cloud, and you can then use Feedly on the iPad, on the Mac, on the PC, wherever you want to, and your subscriptions are in sync. So if I go to all my news, as I normally do in the morning, on the iPad, it automatically gets read, and only the things I tag to keep for later are there when I come over to the workstation and start posting them. And that works for me. There are quite a lot of other services. I've updated my blog lines, I've updated Dig, and I've updated AOL Reader, both of which allow me to get at my former subscriptions at Google Reader. Some will import them, others you have to go to Google, take out, get an OPML file of your feeds and then re-upload it to the new service. But at the moment, the only one that seems to sync for me on mobile is Feedly. I also downloaded on the iPad a client this morning called My Reader. 2 words, My Reader. It cost a bit, but not much. And that too allows you to synchronize your feeds with Feedly, the Feedly cloud. So it means I have 2 mobile clients and any number of desktop clients, all of which sync with Feedly's cloud. That's my solution. It isn't the easiest, especially as my main newsreader is actually on the iPad, and it's an app called River of News, which I really feel I can't live without, but it's one of the few readers that has not updated at all for donkeys, and I don't know what will happen when I open it tomorrow, but I suspect it won't be anything there because it relies on Google Reader and syncing. So that's the news on Google Reader, and I'm not going to. I could rant for half an hour, but we've got guests in the studio, and we've got to get on with some more general chatter, especially as we have sort of 2 important events coming up. Now, as I mentioned, Second Life 10th birthday is over. It will still be 10 for a year now, and this time next year it will be 11, and we'll tackle that one when we come to it, but 10 plus 1, so to speak. However, there are 2 major events coming up in Second Life. One is the Relay for Life, the big fundraising weekend for Relay for Life in Second Life, which ties in with Relay for Life in the organic sphere, so to speak, raising money for the American Cancer Society, and mostly one hopes for research, so it has an international focus. We, as broadcasters, will be partaking with other broadcasters in the telethon, as we call it. Basically, for 2 days and 2 nights, we will be all joining together to broadcast the entire Relay for Life climax of the year, so to speak. And Daniel's just saying in chat the RFL regions are online, and I'm sure Saffia will mention that in a couple of minutes because she was just over there, but they are not open to the public. They're only open to the builders at the moment, but we do actually have a special broadcast centre, a new one for this year, so Saffia will tell us about that. We also have coming up, bare days later, after that telethon weekend, the Virtual Worlds in Best Practices in Education conference, which we're going to be talking about a little bit later, because that too will be broadcast in part or whole by us as well. So to talk about those things and a lot more beside, I'd like to welcome our 2 guests this week, and it's a big welcome back. She is a little bit under the weather, so we're going to treat her gently. But it's a big welcome back after a couple of weeks exhausting herself at Second Life birthday events and everything, to Saffia Widdershins. Hi, Saffia. Oh, right. Could it be that Saffia's muted? Okay, while Saffia unmutes, so we try and organise her. We've also got here,
Hello, yes.
Hello.
Sorry, I had double muted myself. I thought I'd just muted myself in Skype. And in fact, I'd muted myself on my headset as well. I am sorry about that.
Oh, well, stuff happens, as they say. Well, welcome back, Saffia. How's
Thank
things?
you. Thank you. Things are rather sad, actually. Today is Takedown Day at SL10B, community celebration. And we saw the event off in style yesterday. We had a special ceremony this year for the opening where we raised flags all over the 20 Sims. And yesterday we lowered them for the last time. And then before we could get too ms about that, we all dashed to the cake stage and Marion McCann let off a fantastic fireworks exhibition. So we had fireworks. And then we all hurried over to the turtle stage, the amazing turtle stage that Grendel's built. And we danced for about 7 hours. Well, and people kept rushing off to see all the fantastic builds that they'd missed because there were just so many this year. I went to a demonstration of Chaos Energy machines where they're actually scriptless machines that can have people walking, have robots walking, swinging, chain gears revolving, and insects crawling. And all done without scripts, all done in various ways without scripts. Fantastic.
And not even scripts on the server somewhere?
No. None.
Pathfinding tools, maybe? That sounds fascinating.
No, it was absolutely fascinating. He had an exhibition at the community celebration, SL10B community celebration, and he gave a demonstration several times during the event, and there was one yesterday, and quite a few of us went over to see, and it was just jaw-dropping, mad science.
Good grief. Oh, the shame I missed that.
Yeah.
I was saying earlier, I spent the last week when I could getting in there and actually checking out the exhibits I didn't have time to see the previous week, but as you said, there was far too much. I was exhausted last night, of course. I Skyped off to watch the Rolling Stones, didn't I?
Well, everyone in Britain watched the Rolling Stones at Glastonbury, yeah.
Yeah, but, I went racing in afterwards to dismantle my bill because, of course, I didn't realise I had the extra, well, Tara told me I had the extra day, but by that time I dismantled it. So yes, it is all rather sad, because the bill goes up. It's only there for 2 weeks. You get a week of activity and a week to look around, and it's all gone. Just like that. And you think, oh, you want to cry, don't you?
I know.
Especially when you hear about the ones you didn't get to see. But hopefully
Did you get to see Loki Elliott's?
Oh yes. I climbed up that one and met all the little men that gave me presents and stuff, and eventually got to the top. That was a good one. That was a good one. Very, very unusual because it's very cartoony as well. But no, that was fun. Yeah. Yeah. And I never did find the buried crystal cave. That I spent so much. I spent so much time on that sim looking, and eventually I just gave up. I thought there's so much else I want to see. I can't just spend a week looking for a crystal cave. But you can't see everything. But it's the good thing is all the creators have gone away, and they're active on their own sims, no doubt. And we can check up on a lot of them later.
I hope that people feel really inspired by what they saw. And come back for SL11B, determined to, rock us all again, knock all our socks off again.
Up the ante every time, please. Yeah.
I think this was the best ever. We had some things that were just awesome, like the Walk of History that Marianne McCann did. And I really hope that finds a permanent home, because Marianne would love to put it out as a permanent display somewhere on the grid. So I really
should have a permanent home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I never really one thing I missed not having the time for. I know I could have gone back and done it, but I never really got to follow David Abbott's thing, which I was really looking forward to trying to find time to go back over.
There's some lovely things on that. There's a whole explorer's studio to find, a whole explorer's sitting room. She's got all sorts of wonderful bits and bobs in it, globes and things. And it's really well worth seeing. And it's
all gone.
Well, if you race to the reactor stage, that piece is there. And there's another lovely thing to find.
Oh, good. I found that one. It was the one I found. I stumbled on it.
Yes, you've got this wonderful, wonderful box set there.
I have the box in my inventory. I haven't had a chance to unpack it, so I have no idea what's in it. So it's nice to know.
Well, maybe just after this show, there will be time to get in there again. But I sincerely doubt it. Let me
the one by the railway, Tara, because that is the sweetest petite signal box designed by Follow Me, I'm the Pied Piper.
By the railroad.
It was by the virtual railway people. It's hiding behind a tree there. I'm going to say it now because if anyone's got time, they ought to go and get it. Follow Me, I'm the Pied Piper does the most beautiful railway builds and stations, and she's English and she does a lot of English builds. So there's a lot of English railway builds, cottages, bridges, railways, engines, carriages, all this sort of thing. And she's now, because she hasn't got that much land, she's done it all in mesh, but she's shrunk it down. And if you go over to her Sweet Bay Designs and explore, it's just like going through a model village and a model railway. And it is absolutely wonderful. And she gave something from that. She gave something from that to the birthday. And she gave a sort of petite size signal box, and it's just beautifully done. Beautiful piece of work.
Somebody mentioned something during the week, and they said, think Morton on the Marsh. I wonder if that was it. Yeah. Morton on the Marsh, for those of you who aren't English, is a rather famous village in England, which contains inside it a miniature village of itself. The
village is Bourton on the Water. The one that's got the model village is Bourton.
Oh, right, okay. Well, I'm getting totally... It's been a long time.
Morton Marsh is quite close to Bourton on the Water. I mean, you can tell from the names. They're all... Yeah. And they're near Shipton under Wychwood and all this, these Cotswold names, and Chippecandon, all this part of the country, Gloucestershire, Oxfordshire border.
I remember having great fun with it as a kid, though, because you were like Gulliver, wandering around.
And it's in the garden. We should say this for people who haven't seen it. It's in the garden of the new inn in Bourton on the Water, and it's kind of a miniature Cotswold village. It is actually the village of Bourton. So you can walk around the main village and then go and see it all in miniature. And, of course, because it's a model of the village, there is a model of the inn in there. And if you look at the model of the inn, there's a model of the
model inside it. It's like the two mirror thing, isn't it? It go on forever. At what point
does it go on for infinity?
At what point does it become so microscopic they didn't bother? Oh, that is great. Well, we're going to move on in a while to Relay for Life and Telethon and stuff like that. But before I do, let me bring in my other guest today. It's none other than Plelan Corrimal. Hi, Plelan.
Good afternoon.
Now, you, of course, are here to give us a bit of an update on virtual world best practices shortly. shortly as well. But before we do that, I presume, well, I do know that, for example, one of the SLB talks that we posted here on the channel last week was by you. About virtual worlds best practices, and you did actually have a build at the Second Life birthday too. So how much of the birthday festival did you manage to see and all that?
Well, in my particular, I got a chance to very quickly go through a number of the sims that were there, but I didn't get a chance to spend as much time as I really would have liked to have. Between VWBPE and Rockcliffe and my real life job, I'm sort of hopping from one to the other. So I don't always get a chance to look at all the neat things that are going on, but I did see some really incredible builds at the birthday party, and a lot of them really started to, because I love to look at the architecture and to look how people are using the tools that we have here in order to and I guess the way that I keep putting it to people is that everything that we do here is about magic. It's about how you fool the eye and fool the perception in terms of believing something is there when in fact really all it is pixels on a flat piece of glass in front of you, right? So it's just amazing what some of these people have done in terms of their architectural builds.
Anything particular that struck you as or just too many to?
Just far too many. The turtle build, the central auditorium space is just absolutely incredible what people did with those.
Well, yeah, it's all over now, so we just look forward to next year. But looking forward to the closer future, let's return to Saffia now, particularly. But I'm just so we can do these things in order. As I mentioned, tomorrow is the 1st of July. We don't only lose Google Reader, but we're in a month where 2 major events will be happening. They'll be in close proximity, but the first one will be Relay for Life, and we will be partaking in the broadcast of that as part of the famous telethon. I'm wriggling here because I keep announcing it as the RFL telethon, and I'm trying to discreetly introduce it, but in the greater sense.
As part of the greater event, yes.
But Saffia, you are privileged, of course, because you already do have access to the RFL Sims, and you were telling me offline just a few minutes before we came on air, you hopped over there and saw what was happening to what's going to be the telethon build, amongst other things. So do tell.
Okay, well, there's not an awful lot there, but it's very striking at the moment. I should say that it's not all builders who are able to get on the Sims at the moment. It's only the design builders, who do the big design sim builds. The actual camp people, the different teams who will be building their campsites won't be able to get on until the beginning of next week, the beginning of this week. So they shouldn't panic if they haven't got access, and they please shouldn't sort of start IMing people saying, why can't I get on? Because they're not going to get on until a bit later. It's just the designers who are in at the moment. But it's very exciting and very beautiful, and we are going to be on RFL Hope, which is a nice one, and we're at a corner, so we'll see the track on 2 sides, and we are going to have a beautiful view of the track and a beautiful view of a rather exciting build that Beck Janus is putting together. Now, you may remember Beck did the stunning aqueducts in the Babbage Winter sim a few years ago. Do you remember?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
So as well as being a really good camera person for designing worlds, she is also a fantastic Babbage builder. So she has got... she's got a small team of Babbage builders who will be working on RFL Hope and giving us something rather exciting to look at.
Great. Yeah. So we're looking forward to it all. Now, have we any deadlines to really announce on this yet? I mean, we are getting close. Public deadlines, I suppose. Really, it's just a matter of hanging on and waiting for us to post. There have actually been other RFL events going on in the week, by the way. I couldn't see them on my list, but I noticed the RFL website is getting rather busy at the moment.
Yes, they seem to be doing some pushes with Convio as well, which is a way of giving money tax-free. But I think only if you're in the US. I'm not sure it applies to other countries, that you save tax if you give through Convio in other countries. But of course there are ways to donate Inworld, vendors all over the place. So you can certainly do that.
Great. Well, no doubt we'll be hearing more about Relay for Life as the weeks go by. Well, not many weeks.
Well, 2 weeks. Yeah, we've got next week, and then the following Sunday, Metaverse Week in Review is going to be chaired by a very, very tired Matt. Well, isn't it?
Indeed, I suspect so. It will. Well, I can't quite remember. Does Week in Review happen inside the telethon or afterwards?
No,
I can't.
It's just after. The telethon usually finishes at 12, and then you go straight into doing your Metaverse Week in Review.
Oh, of course. Yeah. So just to add insult to injury, we go for 48 hours, and then I do this show.
Yeah.
Well,
and I'm not surprised you don't remember that edition.
Yeah,
you must be completely dead when you do it.
Sleepwalking to a broadcast, no doubt. Yeah, somehow we do it. Okay, well, that will be over. And then I think not the immediate Thursday after. I think it's the Thursday after that we start Virtual Best Practices. Is that right, Plelan? Have I got it all?
No, it's actually the Thursday right after Relay for Life ends.
Oh.
Going from one straight into the other.
As usual, I'm just going to open my diary here. I think I've got things a bit mixed up here. Yes, I will come back to that. That's June, the last day. July, here we are.
There you go. So
Relay for Life ends on the 14th, and when does Virtual Best Practices begin?
Oh, wait a second. All right, now I've got my dates mixed up. Hold on, wait a second. Relay for Life ends on the 14th. Oh goodness, yes. Then we got a week and a half in between.
You had me in a bit of a panic there, Plelan.
I thought for sure that Relay for Life was the weekend of the 19th. So I'm sitting here thinking, this is going to be fun. We're going to go from the 19th straight into VWBPE. And
you had me in such shock that I had to open my diary on the other computer here to check.
There we go. Everybody gets a week's sleep in between. All right, there we go.
So anyway, Virtual World's Best Practices starts on the 24th. I imagine that would be a short day. That's a Wednesday. Is that right?
That's the Wednesday. Yep. We're trying something different this year in terms of trying to run the conference across multiple different virtual worlds.
Yeah.
And so we were hoping to get the Unity community to step forward with the pile of presentations, but that unfortunately didn't really happen for this year, so we'll have to work on that for next year. But we've definitely got maybe about a dozen proposals from Cloud Party, and we've got a half dozen to a dozen proposals from OpenSim. So those are going to be happening in Jocadia Grid, and then we've got probably about 100 plus presentations in Second Life.
Whoa. So it's as busy as it ever is.
But it's going to be really interesting, I think, because there's a couple of different groups. I mean, if you look at what Avacon's doing as well, they've got a little OpenSim conference. Well, not so little, but I mean, they've got a conference as well going on in September.
Yeah.
And so, I'm really anxious to compare notes by the time we've gone through our experience and they've gone through theirs, because I think we're going to find a lot of very interesting things in terms of how everybody deals with the community and what's happened over the last few years, and trying to see if we can pull this community back together again.
Yeah, I'm very curious about what will happen at the September thing. I got to try and get Philippe and Joyce both on the shows to talk about it, and maybe Justin too, who I gather is sort of as involved. Yeah, it's interesting because Abagon, of course, are really they took over SLCC, where the Second Life Community Convention, which of course is no longer happening, and the focus has very definitely moved to OpenSim. So that would be a curiosity. I mean, you and I actually do have to get together to work out some of the logistics of bringing the various worlds into Second Life and connecting across all this stuff. So that's all technical stuff which we won't go into here, but it does sound, I mean, 100 plus proposals for Second Life sounds pretty gigantic, but just the quantitative Tricadia and let's see, we've got Cloud Party and some installations really in Unity 3D, haven't we, as well? Mm-hmm. Which, bringing those all together as one cohesive conference is going to be a task in itself. We're certainly going to need that 10 days to get it all synchronized.
Oh, goodness, yes. Yeah. Well, we're also going to continue because, I mean, we had, the first introduction of concept of a MOOC was introduced last year by Kayvon and Abacus, who were co-chairs of the program committee last year, and they had such success with that we're looking to carry on that moving forward as an ongoing tradition type of thing. In cases where, because we are trying to look at multiple virtual worlds, I mean, there's all kinds of things we're doing in Second Life, but what we're doing here applies equally to any number of other immersive environments, virtual worlds, whichever term we're supposed to be using now. Yeah. And so it's no longer just about what's happening here, but it's a question of how do we take the learning experience that we gain here and how do we apply it in real life and then in other immersive worlds. And so part of the thing that we're doing is the main portion of the conference is going to be those 4 days, July 24th to 27th. And then we're going to run for about 3 or 4 weeks after that. We're going to run a MOOC program where a lot of the virtual world tours are going to be moved into that portion of the program, which will carry over the course of 3 to 4 weeks. Right. So the reason why we're doing that is because one of the things that we found, and it became really obvious last year, was that when we were trying to do virtual world tours as part of the main conference piece, not a lot of people tended to go to them. And I can understand why, because if you look at something like World of Warcraft and we say, we're going to do this session for an hour in World of Warcraft, well, you get a whole pile of people that really want to go see that. And then they say, oh, well, okay, it's going to start in half an hour, so what do I need to do? Oh, I have an 8 gigabyte download.
Yes.
Yeah, that's going to happen. Right? So there's a little bit of pre-work that needs to be done. And as much as we publish this stuff in advance, it's like anything, it's like work or everything else, right? People don't pay attention until 5 minutes before the meeting's supposed to start. So, what we decided was that we would move a lot of those things into a MOOC program. So while the main portion of the conference will be those 4 days, we're actually going to have program going on for about 2, 3, 4 weeks after. Right. And so there's a number of different virtual world tours that I know have been submitted. So it should be interesting. We're going to have probably close to a month of activities coming up.
It certainly makes sense, because if you're going to do tours, I mean, you can set a different day for the different platforms, and give people won't have to. I mean, I take your thing about the 8 gigabyte download, but also it's the disconnect thing, logging out of Second Life, firing up another viewer or firing up the web and a plug-in, and sort of suddenly you're not at the conference anymore. You're getting on a diversion, and then you start panicking because, hang on, I need to get out of here and get back to the actual conference for the next thing. Yep. So it's a logistic for the logistics from the point of view of the people attending, too much jumping around. And of course, they can't hypergrid out from Second Life to Jacadia or whatever. They've got to close down the viewer and open up a new one just for that. So it's it's a wonderful way to show off the potential of all these different platforms, but it's not the easiest, actually it's not that hard, but it's not the quickest of operations to jump between them.
It's not, but it should be interesting because Jocadia Grid should have hypergrid enabled. They've told us that it will, if it's not available now, it should be available before the conference starts. So we're hoping that will be in place. But the other thing that we're also doing is, part of the program that's going to be in Cloud Party is going to be very concentrated in that particular virtual world for that exact reason. I mean, we don't really want people jumping around all over the place. It's difficult for... Well, let me put it this way. I mean, right at the moment, I've got a computer set up in front of me where I've actually got 2 computers and 5 monitors in front of me. So for me to jump around between 3, 4, 5 different virtual worlds is nothing. Yeah. But the average person is sitting with one computer that's barely able to run Second Life, right?
And it's probably sitting on their lap,
It could be, right? So I mean, you really don't want to see people having smoke pouring out of their laptop as soon as we suggest anything more than two worlds at one time. So when we go into Cloud Party, it will be very focused. We'll be doing 9, 10, 12 programs in Second Life and in Cloud Party, and that will be concentrated there. And then we'll have the open sim portion of the program, and we'll be very concentrated in there, and we'll have the Second Life portion. So it will be very, we're hoping that will alleviate some of those concerns of people having to jump around. We want to keep the jumping around to a minimum at this particular point. So,
not to mention our cameras.
Exactly.
When you're in and out of one world to another on each hour, it will be a nightmare. So thank you.
Well, no, in your case, we want 3 cameras in each location. So,
yeah. Well, we'll talk about that.
Talk about that later. Yeah. Okay. All right.
No, I certainly think grouping things together like that certainly makes sense. So. It's going to be a sight to be seen involving all these things, because they're very different styles. I mean, personally, OpenSim and Cloud Party even do feel more or less like Second Life, but things like Unity are really a whole different ball game. You're not dealing with a world; you're dealing with platforms, installations, or spaces, but not a sort of hyper-connected world as such.
Well, that was actually one of the interesting things that we found as we started to go through, because, I mean, when we were initially conceptualizing this, we thought, everybody's talking about Unity, so we'll just dump Unity into the mix. And people get on my back about calling Unity a virtual world, but I mean, it's essentially it's a whole series of games that are not interconnected with one another. So it's sort of like going out to OpenSim in a whole pile of areas that aren't hyper-gridded together. You got to log out of one and into the next one. And the more we started talking through the logistics, to a certain extent, I'm sort of excited about the fact that we didn't get a lot of Unity submissions this year. Not because we didn't want them, but because I think we got a real appreciation for what the technical challenges are of trying to do a Unity any type of a program like this inside a Unity environment, and how we look at those interconnection issues between, how do we move people from one session in one Unity program to another Unity program and not lose half of the group along the way.
Yeah,
right? It's not exactly like you can do with kindergarten kids where you just give them a string and tie their hands to the rope and off you go type of thing, right? So.
That's actually a similar thing to Vast Park, where it's actually, you can stay in the Vast Park viewer, but you have to go back to a hub to then go to a different installation, and it's fairly easy, because it's done with a similar thing to a web address. You just type the address you want to go to into their viewer, and it takes you to the new location. But you do lose that feeling of like in OpenSim and in Second Life, where you just hit teleport and you whoosh, you there. It's just a slightly, slightly more work in the sort of switching. But I think it's all very valid because, we often fall into the expression virtual worlds. But, in the intro to our show, I described the metaverse as the world of immersive spaces. Some on the web, some on your desktops, standalone apps or whatever. The whole thing is spaces you can go to immerse yourself. So if Unity, can provide a conference center and you go there and log in immersively to take part in it, then, that qualifies as much as anything, even if you can't sort of teleport to another build, so to speak.
Well, these are some of the technical challenges we're trying to figure out how we're going to approach this for next year, because that's essentially exactly what it is that we're hoping we can sort of put in place, is to put a little bit more structure around things in terms of saying, okay, if you're going to submit a Unity build to the program, here's a piece of code that we need you to include in your build. And then, essentially that would allow people to log in and log out relatively seamlessly between these different environments. And so it becomes a question of, okay, well, how do we do this? And, does the Unity community actually have something that might be a more apt solution to handling these particular types of challenges? So we've got if we want to introduce Unity into this mix, we've got a fair bit of work ahead of us to do this in a way that's going to be not confuse the heck out of the average participant that's going to walk through the door on us. Yeah.
It's interesting. I mean, there was talk at one point of Unity, because Unity at its heart is, an authoring tool. And, there was talk of building a Unity interface to things like Second Life and OpenSim, where you're using the authoring tools as, to build a viewer, basically. Potentially Unity 3D could power an interoperable virtual world, but it's just got a long way to go. You've actually thankfully reminded me, this strand of thought, actually something I missed, and of course I've gone and closed my Twitter links list, but something else that emerged during the week, which it's sort of emerged in a bit of a backwater. I'm surprised nobody noticed it, but the people at Havoc have actually joined Unity and whatever to open source for free. They're giving their code available for free for people to develop things like iPad apps and web plugins. And the thing about this, of course, is although we're going through a lot of changes in Second Life here, Second Life is still powered by the Havoc engine, and it seems that if the Havoc engine is moved, out of a licensing situation into putting a lot of it into open source for development, that could have implications for the idea of bringing Second Life and things onto the iPads and what have you. So I completely missed that in my headline news, but you've reminded me that happened this week. The Havoc engine is now officially, or a lot of it is now officially open source for developers to deploy here, there, and everywhere. So that could be good, I think. Okay, let's move on to other events. Let's widen the chat a little bit to anything else that's going on. Maybe I should head back to Saffia here. Can you think of anything, apart from the things that are obviously occupying our mind at the moment, that are coming up in the next week or so?
Yes, I've got some very sad news, actually.
Oh, okay.
Seraph City is closing.
Yes, I think I picked up on that in the no, it's not on my list here. Yeah, that's very sad news. So not only, it's very sad news anyway, but of course, I think that might affect some location filming.
It certainly will. Yes, a lot of the Black and Mirror was filmed in Seraph City. So that's a problem.
The characters in the Black and Mirror are going to be relocating their offices, no doubt. That is very sad news. There seem to be quite a lot of things. One of my favourite shops, you wouldn't know it because I never wear them, but it's the Mad Hattery. They do these wonderful hats with Tara will tell you too. I mean, she's got a vast collection from there, as have I. Everything from steampunk hats to, just straight top hats with strange contraptions on them. And they sent a message out today. They're downsizing. They're letting half their stock go at next to nothing, 25, 50 lindens, and they will be keeping a shop. But it's only going to be a very small shop somewhere, and, they're selling off a lot of their stock, which is good news if I want to go and raid them for new hats. But it's sad. But Serra City is such a iconic build in Second Life. Really, it's a real shame.
Absolutely beautiful. Unless it can find a buyer by the 12th of July, it's gone. And it's a real shame.
Do you have any information on what the circumstances are that they have to close or sell?
Basically, they're just not making any money. The guy who owns it has got very busy in real life, and the energy which he put into starting it up, he doesn't have anymore. Other people have tried to keep it going, but it hasn't really worked. So either it would need to find a sympathetic new owner who would be prepared to put time and money into it, or else it's gone. And I think, sadly, it's gone. It's a shame because it's a unique build and very, very attractive, and has lots of potential for role-playing and scene setting, as we found.
How many Sims was it?
Just one.
Oh, it was only one. Yeah. I mean, I suppose it's a fair chance to be able to back it up, and it might be able to come back at a future point, but that will be a shame. That'd be a real shame. I don't know what to say, really.
It is a real shame. I don't know quite what we're going to do, but I have to wait and see what season 2 scripts look like.
Yes, for Black Mirror. Well, there's probably other places, but it will require. You can always write the move into the script. So you're going to have to hurry up on that one, aren't you?
I don't think that's going to happen.
Oh, right. Oh, well, they'll just transfer to another dimension or something where Serra City never was. Something like that. Yeah. I'm not going to script it for you. I'll leave that to you.
That's David's province.
Right. Something we haven't mentioned, of course, is that Designing Worlds last week on Monday, and I gather tomorrow, part 2 are actually also recap editions on SL10B, aren't they?
That's right, yes. Last week we went and looked at several builds by exhibitors. There was one which was Flying Saucers from Outer Space. It's a wonderful new machinima, which is a 1950 science fiction film pastiche. And we also had Elric met someone who's involved in dressage.
Oh, yes.
And just didn't know that dressage existed in Second Life. In fact, it's I think that the level they've got is fairly recent, because it's only recently that horses have been so controllable.
I think
in terms of things like gait. But they are actually horse avatars, and they're ridden, and it's all about a partnership between the rider and the horse. As it is in real life, of course.
I actually have a horse avatar, which I finally found, which is nice because somebody can ride me. Mm-hmm. And when they ride me, I can either be in control or they can be in control. So they can take over my avatar while they're riding me, or I can take them for a ride, quite literally. And it's actually great fun because, I raise this sort of little ball and they press on the ball. And depending on the order you press on the ball, if they press it first, they ride me. If I press it first, they have to jump on me. And it's just, it's nice because, as you say, you immediately form a partnership with the person who's riding you, whether you're driving or they are, and it's just a different way of doing things. But dressage to me actually wasn't that new. Somebody who used to Sandy Adam, I think it is. Actually, I think that's Georgina Blackburn in World. Used to be in the audience on our show quite a lot, and she opened up a sim. It must have been about 2 years ago, and I really can't remember the name. But Carriage Trade, it's called. Mm-hmm. And that's that's like very into horses there, but that did involve dressage. I don't know whether it was just riding horses or whether it was a double up avatar thing, but I certainly had come across it before. Actually, I thought it was quite curious. And I also think they have models of, I think where the name Carriage Trade came from is that it was somewhat historical. So they had horses with carriages and, rebuilding ancient times before motor cars, basically. So that was quite fascinating. Yeah, I do like the horses. I've got quite a collection now, actually. I've got a few extra ones, thanks to SL10B too. There was a collection of horses from various people to be found if you went rummaging. So I've got various parcels.
There were some amazing gifts.
Yeah. There was even an SL10B horse, which I think the novelty factor probably wears off after the celebrations are over, but it's decorated, to trot around the.
Where did you get that? Because I didn't get that.
Where I actually got it in the end, there is a sim. I think it's fairly close to the public landing area. Where it's a parcel that is just full of freebies. It doesn't seem to be any particular vendor. It's just freebies that people were allowed to dump their freebies there. Right. And I just went in I just went in and spent half an hour clicking, take, or buy, or some of them even delivered it for me, which is even nicer. But it's like when you go to one of those freebie hubs, and it's not going to cost you anything, so you just click on everything. I'll have that. But I landed, the teleports I followed landed me at a pile of boxes, which quite literally were all to do with horses, including bridles and stuff like that actually are for horses I've already got and bought in the past, so I've now got additional bridles I can put on some horses I've got. So yeah, it's great fun. And it really is a relaxing way to, just as I spend most of my time as a pussycat who can't sit on anything properly actually, because it's lightweight and I can rummage around and sort of just travel around, and half the time can't see me. But other times, if it's landscapes you're after and things, it's really great to just get on a horse and trot around, and you can usually gallop, which picks up your speed a bit, and it's just a great way of looking, exploring landscape type sims and stuff. It gives you that extra immersion level that makes you feel like you're clomping around on a horse, which you are virtually. So great stuff. Now, talking of shows, actually, you featured this very last minute, I think, on your blog. There was a new show that sort of premiered a few days ago called Name That Schmuck.
Yes, that's a machinima from Running Lady Studios and Virtual Girl Productions.
That's actually already up on the channel here. It was, we put it up about 3 days ago. It's actually quite short, but I think it was just a bit too long to run in the show. It reminds me of sort of Pookie's things, like she's done Dating Casino and what's slightly more serious, The First Question. And this is really so light-hearted. It's somewhere between the comedy channel, i.e. Lauren, and the quiz show channel. But it's quite short, but it's quite well produced. I was quite impressed. It's an entertainment show.
They're very good. Running Lady, and they are going to be part of the telethon.
Oh, wonderful. Right. So we got more. Yeah. The other thing that, this is a real curiosity, actually. The Carter Dahl show. Do you know are you familiar with this?
I've heard of it, yes.
It's a show that always broadcasts in sort of late or mid to late evening US time, I guess. So it's never really been on my radar. And in fact, I have Frolic. I think it was Frolic was on our show here or something, and he came in saying, "Oh, I've just done Carter Dahl," and I sort of started looking it up, and it was very tacky, but it was video. It had a sort of still shot coming in, and they were looning around a bit as I was saying stuff. But recently, and I say this with reservation because the two people have clearly got involved with them who, in my activities elsewhere, I think we might have been responsible for training them up a bit, and they just walk away. And they've run over to Carter Dahl show, and they've literally taken over production. There's a company called Cold Media, and they have actually, I have to say, impartially, done a remarkable job. They've clearly got the presenters properly edited, nice slick cut. The presenters come on, they talk about a bit about real world news, a bit about Second Life news. They have guests. Well, it sounds like a bit of a formula to me. and the graphics have been tidied up. It's obviously edited afterwards and then posted live. But again, I've put that up on the channel here because the last two episodes have been so slick. That they still qualify by my criteria as decent programming,
right?
But you should probably watch them if you get a chance. It is. I do slightly feel a bit resentful. It's coming into known territory, but when it comes to broadcasting, the more the merrier. Really, I have to say. So we put those up. So if you're watching the channel. At MBTV Live or live stream or wherever you might be watching it, it might be worth checking out the midweek metaverse sequences where we got various long form videos and shows that don't actually fit into the weekend review, so to speak. So that's that. What else have I got? I've got a new art show landing at Atelier Creslow. I think Atelier Creslow is probably the name of the sim. I'm just taking this from my feed. I did know I saw some illustrations of that show. It just still pictures on the web, and it looked very interesting. There is an exhibition called The Sum of Our Parts that's opened at the Nitro Globus Gallery. Again, I'm afraid you're going to have to search for this stuff, folks. But there's no way of broadcasting a slill where you can click on my mouth. And where are we? No, that's old now.
I think it'd be a good idea.
Yeah.
What we do with Happy Hunting is after the show goes out, we put a page on the Happy Hunting blog that has details of all the hunts we've talked about. So when you're giving people all these slurs, if you just put them out on a web page, it would be brilliant because then people, having heard you talk about them, could go and find out about them. It
would be, wouldn't it? That's a bit more, rather a lot of word, but. I would add, I often add on this show that, during the week, if you want to follow my links and the stuff I'm invariably going to talk about, you can follow me at Malbones _writer on Twitter for Second Life stuff, events, hunts and stuff. Or you can follow me as just Malbones, one word, on Twitter for all these sort of open metaverse and interface technology stuff. So there's two separate streams there, and all the things I mention here are actually, the links are on those feeds. It wouldn't be any other way because it's actually my own feed. Oh, thank you, Tara, or whoever's doing that. I'm actually reading back my own feeds to prompt me as to what's new. So the links are actually out there, and I think if you go to metaverseweekendreview.com, where Tara embeds the shows, I think there is actually a widget with my Twitter feed there. I'm not entirely sure. Can you remember?
Well, there is, but it needs attention, so it's not current.
Okay, fair enough.
You know, it's called that. Some of that back end API stuff changed, and I have not gone back in and updated. So, but you prodded me. I will do so.
Yeah. This is a problem with the cloud. They keep all these valuable services keep changing their APIs. But at least they just don't vanish like certain Google readers do. Back on that one, aren't I? There was also interesting, again, you'll find a link in the Malbones Writer feed. There was an interview, quite a long interview. I think it was SL News that did it in the week with Tuna Oddfellow. It was just called Interview with Tuna, the Oddfellow of Second Life. And I don't know whether any of you have ever been to Tuna Oddfellow's shows, but they are somewhat psychedelic and quite, they play sort of nice, very nice, subtle selection of chill out music on their stream, and Tina has you in this sort of virtual globe, and the visuals just change constantly around you. He's doing it for a variety of HUDs. Along with, in time with the music and everything. So it's not only great music, but it's a great, it's somewhat sometimes disorientating experience while you're literally dancing around, sometimes seemingly in thin air against this wild psychedelic backdrops. But very, very interesting stuff, very innovative when it started, and still a great experience. Right, there's an exhibition called Art Inside, which has opened at the Diamax, DAMIAX Art Gallery. Again, that's another one that struck me as looking rather interesting. And I'm scanning up my list here. There's an awful lot in my list this week, but a lot of it is just immediate links. Oh yes, the Kokura viewer has been updated again. Now we announced this on last week's show, but this is yet another update. They apparently have immediately brought in some new stuff to make it compatible with Linden Labs' new viewer things. So hot on the heels of the last update, you can now download 3.6.1, and it's fully Second Life compatible. I gather, even though our understanding was always that Kokura was meant to be a successor to Imprudence, geared more to OpenSim, but it certainly works with Second Life by the sound of it. Okay, and I think I just have the normal wonderful blog posts, of course, from people like Honor Macmillan and Tara's favourite Inara Prey, so blogs to check out there. Right, so who's got anything else? Let's get you back in, Plelan. Anything other than VWBPE on your mind at the moment? Anything interesting happening at Rockcliffe or elsewhere that you can think of?
Well, in terms of other stuff?
Other stuff,
other stuff, oh my goodness. Well, I mean, there's tons of stuff for VWBPE, which we haven't gotten to yet, but in terms of Rockcliffe, we're probably going to have a couple of announcements at the conference in terms of some a new website that we're going to be introducing, and that's probably going to be the real, and I'm going to hang on to that until the conference.
Right? Fair enough.
That's probably going to be our big piece of news for the next little bit. But right at the moment, we're sort of, I don't know. I mean, I've got, I see sort of what we've got on the schedule for the next 6 months, and I'm sort of excited about things because we're starting to make some progress in areas that we really want to make some progress on, and I think people are going to start to really see the results of that over the next 12 months. So, it's by the time we get to this point next year, I think we're going to have a ton of stuff to talk about. But right at the moment, I'm sort of keeping a few things under my hat for the time being. But we will have a big announcement at the conference itself. So.
All right. So no independent events that are on your Second Life login agenda, so to speak, at the moment.
Not right at the moment. It's just, trying to get through work and trying to get through VWBPE is sort of like, okay, there's a little bit of sleep in the middle I got to get. And
I know. Probably sleep deprived already. It's not like VWBPE is exactly a small potatoes production.
Yeah. Goodness, no. But
I had to ask. I had to ask on the off chance.
That's quite right, because I mean it's quite often we do have things on the go, but right now I think all of our efforts are sort of going into this right at the moment. I know that Letty, who's our programs chair for VWBPE, she's right at the moment she's on vacation, which she's sort of done this thing where all the submissions are in review right at the moment. So as soon as she gets back at the end of this week, and as soon as she gets back, all the submission letters go out in terms of acceptance or acceptance with changes or what needs to go out. So, people are going to start this weekend, not this weekend, next weekend. July 5th, 6th, that weekend there. The people are going to start to see emails showing up inside their email boxes in terms of their acceptance, and then we start getting into the whole scheduling thing at that point. We'll start sending out information to the posters, people who've submitted a poster exhibit presentation, and give them their poster spot and what have you. So there's a lot of Letty's been doing a lot of work up to this point. She's actually had the largest job of anybody. And then all my stuff starts coming up very shortly. So the it'll be interesting. This conference always is. It's always fun. It's always exciting, and it's always sleep deprived. But at the end of it, it's sort of like something. It is just so worth doing it.
Well, it's one of the things that has struck me is that in the world of applications, of serious applications of virtual environments or immersive environments, if that's what we're now using instead, education has just continued to plod right along. And maybe it hasn't, it doesn't attract quite the media, it doesn't attract the media attention that, health kinds of applications might now be garnering. But I would say that there has been no downturn in the uptake of using virtual environments for education. In fact, I would say it's continuing to grow and spread, and that's a good thing. I'm really glad to see that.
It is to a certain extent. I mean, it's interesting because if you look at some of the numbers that we've had in attendance at our conference over the last 4 years, and you look at some of the statistics that BotGirl and Maria and others put out in terms of where people are moving to and what they're doing, it's actually quite interesting, because while a lot of the numbers have gone down substantially for Second Life, this conference, even though we've had such a spreading out of the community, we're still pulling in 2,000 plus people coming to this conference every year. And, that's no small feat right there. I mean, managing, that number of people coming into something like this. I mean, there's and such a dedicated community as well. I mean, it's just, it's interesting because to a large extent, I would have, if you had asked me a couple of years ago when London Lab sort of dropped out the educational discount and a couple of other things that they did at that time, like, take out the teen grid and what have you, I would have almost said that, we would have seen numbers just absolutely plummet on stuff like this. And they've gone down, but they haven't gone down so far. Like, we're probably, maybe down 30%, if that, from 4 years ago. And so I don't know. I mean, I think you're right. I think educators are still dedicated to virtual worlds and the benefits that these types of platforms offer. But it's certainly we haven't seen the hit that a lot of other places have.
Mel, I think Mel is talking, but I see his bubble making noise, but I'm not hearing him on Skype. Oops.
Oops.
Oh, which button did you push, Mel?
Isn't he supposed to be the technical guru?
Yeah, well, he runs the studio.
Hello.
There
And
we go.
we're
We're going to
back.
try this. We're back. There we go.
That was a little hiccup.
And we still can't hear Mel.
No. Shall we just wrap the show without it?
Yeah, actually, we are about at that wrap-up point, and I'm willing to wager Mel has managed to sit on a button on his headset or something. That would be
1 2. Am I back?
there he is.
Oh, there we go.
There you are.
Okay.
Very good. Yes, it must be all this sticky weather or something. That's some sort of a light flickering on my wire. Don't know how that happened. I was just okay. Yeah, it is wrap up time. Actually, I was going to intervene there when you were talking, Plelan. Yes, you can all hear me now, can't you?
Yes.
Yeah, fine.
Yes.
Okay. There was a link, interestingly enough, that I mentioned at the top of the show, which I don't know whether you picked up on it. A Noble Virtual School. And what struck me about that, I have to investigate it further because it's a very new link I picked up in the week, but it seemed to be offering classroom facilities. They did look very much like Second Life, though equally I suppose it could have been Open Sim. But what I did find intriguing about them was that they definitely seemed to be schoolroom based, schoolroom curriculum. And something I'm very aware of following education in virtual worlds is that, especially over here in the UK, a vast majority, I think, of virtual activity is from universities and colleges rather than what we would call schools, the pre-adult education or pre-university level type thing. I mean, it's called different things around the world. But I thought that was interesting because, when I'm looking up something on the educational front in Second Life, whatever, it's almost invariably a university or a college of some sort. So to actually see the schools themselves, which of course is a lower range demographic as well, getting involved, I thought was kind of interesting. So I do want to follow that up.
Well, sort of. I mean, if you look at people like Peggy Sheehy and what she's been doing, especially in the high school, the K through 12 type arena, I mean, there is so much that a lot of these groups are doing. And unfortunately, because of the terms of service, they're not really supposed to be coming into Second Life, as part of that. And, even with the changes back in 2009, it really wasn't a good compromise because they basically said, well, if you're 15, you can sort of come in here, but if you're below that, we still don't want you on here. And it's sort of like,
but they can come
really,
they can come into Open Sim though, which is effectively the same for a classroom purpose.
Well, to a certain extent. I mean, you certainly don't have the same market, and there's a couple of performance issues and what have you. But I mean, you look at some of these things that students who are 10, 11, 12, some of these things that when they're given the opportunity to use these environments, some of the stuff that they're doing. Look at some of the stuff that they're doing in Minecraft. Look at some of the things that they're doing in some other virtual worlds. It's just absolutely incredible. I mean, it's this is a really good tool for developing critical thinking and other skills at that particular level, and it's on a plane that kids understand because they're surrounded by the rest of this stuff as part of them growing up. I mean, there isn't a kid born today, I don't believe I'm about to say this. Of course, when I was born, there's no such thing as the internet, right?
Yeah,
it's sort of like if we got the game Trouble, we thought we were doing great, right? And now kids are born with an iPhone in their hand.
Exactly.
So it's different tools for different minds, but it's schools that take advantage of this, I think, are likely to find that they're going to reap a whole pile of benefits in terms of how kids are able to use their imagination and to do critical thinking and to apply all of these concepts that were dry, boring reading when I was going to school. Like, I mean, how often do you actually use algebra and trigonometry? But yet, if you're in here, you actually have to understand those concepts. Right? So
absolutely, and I really agree with that. In fact, I don't know if it's in the audience. Dan Voyager might be a good example of this, if I recall rightly. But remember when Second Life had its teen grid, And when it eventually merged with the Second Life grid, then it lowered the age you could get into Second Life, but it didn't lower it all the way to the teen grid level. But what was interesting, you know, a lot of significant things have happened in Second Life when people on the teen grid finally got into Second Life proper, because they brought things with them. And, you know, they were very skilled. I mean, just to use the nice sensationalist example, is that on the teen grid, they were never allowed to take off their underwear. Now, we're not going to go into anything salacious here, but it was the creators on the teen grid who found the way to overcome this problem. And, of course, when they had done, they brought it into the adult grid. You know, so they. It struck me that there was an astonishing amount of creativity going on the teen grid, which of course would have been, you know, there would have been older teens, but there would also have been younger teens that would have qualified as what I call school age. You know, so there's certainly a wealth of development that's come along, that's been brought in. And I was just mentioning Daniel Voyager, for example. If forgive me, Daniel, if I got this wrong, but I think when I first came across you, you were on the teen grid, and then you came into Second Life, and you have one of the most read blogs full of news posts and useful information there is, you know, just straight from the word go when you came in. I hope I've got that right. Anyway, I'm digressing here. Before we close, Saffia, anything else?
No, I think that says everything.
Yeah, we've been pushing it today a little bit because I know you're very tired and it's very hot and muggy here. So, okay, Tara, anything to round up with?
Just happy 4th of July, and I'm ready to finish wilting here as the temperature climbs into the 80s.
Whoa! Yes, and it's still daylight there. Right? Yes.
Oh yes, it's going to get warmer for several more hours.
I guess I must say that too. I'd completely forgotten that. Happy 4th of July to our American friends. They do actually hold some 4th of July parties here in the UK, but I think it's sort of expat Americans who are doing it all. The fireworks go off over the road here, so there must be some Americans around. So yes, happy 4th of July and a happy week to everybody. So I'm going to call it a wrap before I think of something else to go on about. I'd like to thank today's guests, Plelan Corrimal. Thank you, Plelan.
Thanks. I'm just so that I can put it out there. Canada Day is tomorrow, and to heck with the U.S. July 4th. Canada Day.
Okay. Oh, that's right, Canada Day. Yeah, I forgot about Canada Day.
Exactly.
Yeah,
just slighted every Canadian. I'm just, I'm just so upset.
Of course, you get a jump on us on. You get a jump on us on Thanksgiving too. By about a month and a half.
Yep.
Okay. Well, a happy first for Canadians. Okay, I've added that too. So anyway, thanks, Plelan. Thanks very much for being here. And also thank you to Saffia.
That's a pleasure, Mel.
Hope we'll be seeing a little bit more of you in future, and hopefully one day we'll catch you when you're not exhausted. That we'll have a prize given.
Next couple of weeks, you probably won't catch me at all because I'm up to my ears in spreadsheets next week, and I will be kind of comatose after a certain telethon the week after that. So a warning in advance.
Yeah, as I say, one day we'll get you when you have had a quiet week, and we will give out a prize to somebody who we will give out we will think up some kind of prize and give it to anybody who can find the way to make Saffia have a quiet week. I don't know where that's actually possible. It's a fair bet that's not possible, actually, but
Saffia just needs to pick up her calendar, find 3 weeks where she has nothing currently scheduled, and draw a line through all 3 of them and write holiday on it. And then say, no, I'm on holiday. Anybody
asks this holiday thing of which you speak?
What's a holiday?
Quite.
What's a holiday?
Yeah.
I might settle for a weekend, Tara.
Vaguely remember that being in my dictionary or history somewhere. But
knowing that Brits use holiday as the U.S. employees refer to vacations.
Yes.
I was thinking of that sort of holiday. So.
Indeed. Of course, to some people, you just take a virtual vacation, don't you? No, I'm not going there. Okay, everybody. Well, thanks for listening, watching, or whatever you do. If you are watching live, you're about to see a huge treat of machinima. Loads more entries flowing in for the University of Western Australia's Reflections Contest. I've got about 8 or some that just come in today, which I won't be showing, but you're going to be seeing ones from the last week. We've got a nice little intro clip, which is a machinima of the Owl and the Pussycat. I thought that resonates with our pussycats, I guess. And a couple of interesting things that are in the list too. Second on the list here is a trailer for IMVU Universe Channel. I'm not quite sure what this is, but it does seem like somebody's trying to launch a channel, machinima style channel, based on the Inworld activities of IMVU. And I also have near the end of the playlist a machinima. It's a music video, which I'm sure everybody's going to say that's not Second Life, because it ain't. It's actually filmed in a platform called Terra on the TERA. Terra Online. It's a music video that's filmed in there, but I have rather liked it, so I've added it to our playlist. But otherwise, we've got just Inworld Machinima and lots of UWA and a whole bunch of stuff to keep you going for the next couple of hours. You can always watch this show in replay on YouTube, or if you want the entire Week in Review show, you can also watch that in replay at mbtvlive.nu and assorted other places, metaverseweekinreview.com, and anybody else who wants to embed it, they are freely able to. So who knows where it might turn up. So thanks again to Plelan and Saffia, and of course my partner Tara, and we will see you next week.